we will honor the time block and get rolling. So today is all about lead gen and all about setting appointments and all about finding more success in 2025, candidly, perhaps than you found as 2024 tapered off. Whenever we teach a class or whenever we have a conversation, my strong preference is to be able to bring truth to struggle. In other words, for us to be able to talk directly to some of the things that you're curious about or you're struggling with. So I'm going to put a few of you on the spot. Would love to hear from 2 or 3 of you if you want to unmute or if you want to drop it in the chat. What's one thing that you're hoping to get out of today's conversation? Or candidly, why did you choose to give an hour of your time to zoom in and join us today? Love to hear from 2 or 3 of you. What do you got? Everyone jumps at once.
I'll go. I'm just here for some more motivation, I guess, and just to hear what others do to gain business, especially because he's newer to to Keller Williams, right? And so I just think that's cool.
Area, you'll hear the story. Newer to the area that he's servicing. Yep, that's great, Bree.
Yeah.
Also, as a PSA, I know that many of us just prefers our cameras off on Zoom, or maybe we didn't put our makeup on or our hair or whatever. My hair is done, but I love it, and I know Jason would prefer it when we can see faces. It makes it more personal. So, Sue, you get the gold star, but if any others are able to video on, that makes our time that much better. All right, Corey chimed in saying, "Moved to a new state, looking for creative ways to lead gen in a new location as well, continuing to reach sphere in previous state." Corey, I'm so glad you're here, and that I don't know, that's a center of the bullseye question for some of what we're going to be spending time on today. Tracy says, "I'm a new agent, would love to know how to generate new leads." Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tracy. And yeah, we are in the lead generation business. Corey, thank you for joining us. Yeah, Gary Keller, you've probably heard me say, and if not, I'll tell you now. Gary Keller will say that when you're in real estate, you're not really in the real estate business, you're in the lead generation business. Yet the truth is, many of us take a wishing, hoping, praying approach. When I ask folks, "Hey, how's business?" It's like, "Well, we'll see," or I think I got one, and it's very speculative, very hoping a thing works out, as opposed to, "Here's what I'm doing, here's my plan, and I'm embodying the role of a lead generator." And candidly, some of you, if you'd heard that before you got into the business, you might have said, "Let's it's not for me because I don't like going out there and getting business." And if that's kind of how you're thinking about things today, I hope we can help change your mind. One caveat before I dive in with Jason is I believe that God made you uniquely, and everyone's got a unique personality and unique gifts and skills and propensities. And you'll find the greatest success when you seek to generate business that's in a way that's kind of going with the grain of your personality. Which doesn't mean that we're not working hard, we're not trying new things. It doesn't mean that we're not pushing ourselves, but it's also meaning we're paying attention to how we're made. And if you're curious about what that means for you, I'd be glad to talk with you. Your team leader, I'm sure, would be glad to talk with you. We could do a KPA and help you better understand kind of how you're wired to make sure that you're doing as many kind of go with the grain activities as possible, because the fastest way out of this business is to repeatedly do things that you just hate doing, because you won't do them well, and you won't love it, and you'll give up on it, and you won't succeed. So my hope is today's conversation sheds some light on how Jason's winning, and it can inspire and motivate and encourage you as you think about where you're at in your journey. Fair enough? All right, Jason, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I don't know if I have co-host capacity here or not. I'm going to pin you, and I'll add a pin here, so we're talking a little bit more people can see more easily. All right, before we dive into the nuts and bolts, give us the overview. who are you? And what did you do prior to real estate? What do you enjoy doing when you're not selling real estate? Give me the flyover.
Yeah, so I got into real estate right out of high school. It was back in 2019. At that time, I was a senior in high school trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I had done the College Credit Plus through my high school. I was just planning on continuing at Kent State Stark and going to school. Um, but I opened up a brokerage investing account in stocks once I turned 18. I put some money into stocks, made some money off of stocks, and I that got me thinking, okay, well maybe there's other opportunities, maybe there's other things out there that I could do. So that kind of pushed me into the idea of real estate investing and had no idea where to start, what to do first. So I just went out, got my real estate license, joined a brokerage, tried the sales end for a couple months, but just did not wasn't too confident, didn't really have, what I have, I guess the skills that I have now to succeed. At that time, I just lacked. So I wanted to find something where I could find some of those skills, find that experience. So I ended up jumping into property management and did that for about 2.5 years. That was a very hard job that once I got out of it, I was like, I have to figure out how I can make it work so I never have to go back to property management. So that was kind of my motivation going into the sales end, and yeah, been doing it since. So now I'm about I'll be 3 years this April full time in sales. And part of that is like when I first made the transition into sales, I was still like 1 foot in sales, 1 foot in leasing, and it took me maybe about 8 or 9 months before I was like, I can't keep doing this. I just if I'm going to do the sales, I have to commit to it 100%.
That's uh that's a great point. And I think sometimes I see a lot of people who are drawn to real estate because they can keep their foot in nine different things. Oh, I got my foot here, got my foot here, got my foot here, got my foot here. Real estate professionals are professionals at like having as many hustles as possible. Um, and yet, the more you focus on something, the more likely you are to succeed at that thing. So kudos to that. Let's camp a minute on your background with property management. Whenever someone tells me I'm interested in getting into property management, my follow-up question is why? Because it's not glitzy, it's not glamorous, the paychecks aren't going to be as big, but there's valuable experience there. So tell us, what did you take from that experience of leasing and interacting with all kinds of different people, I'm sure, similar things, but not identical things to what you're doing now. What did you learn? What foundation did that lay for you, you think?
So I think it really helped with professionalism and just kind of getting that framework for what does it look like to show up to an office? What does it look like to, show up to a 9 to 5, put in the work and be busy, be consistent. And then also, I mean, it was so I had the idea of real estate investing, and then with landing in property management, I think it was kind of perfect because here I am, the middleman between tons of tenants and investors. We were a third party management company. So we had a ton of unique investors. Anyone that was from, maybe they only had 4 units. And then we had our biggest client, they had like 5,000 units that spanned all across the US. So it was a
Wow.
super unique experience just in that regard to see how these guys were putting deals together. What they were
Mhm.
analyzing, what they were looking at whenever they were purchasing a property, how they were maintaining it, and all those just, we did KPIs all the time. So we were constantly reviewing, okay, here's what's going out, here's what's coming in. So it was a really good experience and definitely learned a lot on the investing side and on the professionalism side.
There's an agent that I know who likes to think of herself not as a salesperson, but as a professional problem solver. And as you were talking there, um, I kind of went down that path to think, oh yeah, okay, I might not own 5,000 units and be putting those sorts of deals together myself, but as an agent, and particularly the way that you generate leads, which we'll get into in a minute, you're trying to solve problems. At the end of the day, we're not just presenting packets and we're not just taking nice photos. We're solving people's problems. We're solving problems where buyers need a different situation, sellers have a problem that they need. And I think interacting in a different way in the more kind of commercial investment grade space as you were learning the business has probably strengthened your problem solving muscle and creative thinking muscle. How could I help this person get what they want while
Yeah,
getting the outcome that I desire as well?
for sure. No, I agree with that 100%. And I think one of the biggest takeaways also that I've really seen in my sales business that has really helped is, things are constantly not going your way. Like I got a listing, and the buyer just submitted the mutual release for it this morning. So that's going to be coming back on the market. I had a lead that I had an appointment set up for with Sunday. They came by to an open house. I set an appointment with them on Sunday. They called me that morning to cancel. They showed it with another agent. They ended up going under contract with that other agent. So it's like there's constantly these disappointments. There's constantly bad things that are going on, and just to be able to see what's going on, to feel what's coming on, but not let it influence how I'm gonna approach my next hour, my next 5 hours, or the next day, the next week. And I think that's critical in our business.
For sure, for sure. So let's jump ahead and then we'll reverse engineer from here. Um, Part of how I got people interested in joining us today is, hey, this guy's taking a bunch of listings. So you joined us early November, having come over from another brokerage. How many listings have you taken in the last 2 months? And give us a scope of your business today.
Yeah, so 7 listings. I'll be taking a another listing next week, and then I've got a pipeline that I'm feeling pretty confident about for Q1. Buyer sides, I think I've had maybe in that meantime maybe 5 buyer agreements signed. I just made an offer for a buyer from an open house just made it last night, so fingers crossed that we'll get some good news today. Um, but yeah, so just been prospecting hard. So I got married back in August, and I think that was like kind of a little bit of a push. And not that I wasn't already, doing well in my business. I think I sold roughly 35 houses last year, but getting married kind of just gave me another framework where it's like, okay, I really gotta, kick it into another gear. We both have these goals that we want to accomplish, and I can see what my effort, what my work can do. So making this change, it was like I'm excited to just see what I can do, what I can make happen, and just get after it. So that's what I've been doing. So each week I've been maintaining anywhere between 3 to 5 open houses a week. And I, call on expireds. I call on old internet leads. Those are some of my main forms of prospecting. And I'll say, so you said that to begin with, that you want to frame your prospecting to what works best for your personality, and what might make the most sense for whenever you get out there, whether it's open houses, whether it's making calls, so on and so forth. But I I have a sense that even whenever I was starting out with, there was so many hurdles that I had to get through, just as far as like social anxieties and meeting new people, that it felt like I couldn't do anything. It was like doing an open house was so hard, making calls was so hard. Um, so I guess if there's anyone on the call that has that same sort of feeling where it's like, it's really hard to pick up a phone and make a call. It's like it doesn't always have to be that way. You can figure out what to say on a phone, handle the objections, and work through that to get to a point that you're eventually feeling much more confident and able to convert using those strategies.
We are not static beings. We can, it's unlikely we can become someone that we're not, but we can become a more mature, more sharpened, less fearful version of how we are made. And that's what I'm hearing you describe. So you just listed kind of three primary pools, and I'm willing to bet I don't know, maybe someone joined this call saying like, what's his secret source? And you're like, oh, open houses, expireds, internet leads. Like, oh, I have those opportunities too, but I'm not seeing those results. Jason, boo, give me something sexier or something where I'm going to see more, something I haven't tried before. But what I would say that I've seen in you is someone is choosing to take massive action rather than to dip his toe in. So you didn't say I've taken 3 to 5 open houses since joining 2 months ago. You said I've taken 3 to 5 open houses a week. So I'm going to pause there, folks. do some math. 8 weeks with us. Do you have a number, Jason? That's 24 to 40 open houses that you've hosted in the last 2 months, if that number
Yeah.
is consistent.
Yep.
And so talk with us about that. So uh, people who aren't asking questions but would ask questions might say something like, wait, you don't have 24 listings, so how do you get 24 open houses? How are you getting these opportunities? How are you turning that into business? So I want to kind of focus on each source, because you laid that out for us, and learn how you're winning there. So talk with us about your kind of your system as it relates to open house success.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure there's maybe one or a few people on this call that have actually reached out to host an open house on one of their listings. But that's really the bulk of it. I actually set myself up on a MLS listing alerts for any listings in the area that are with Keller Williams. So anytime someone within Keller Williams, they list the property, I get notified, I see the house, and I try to stay within as close to the Canton area as I can, because that's where I'm, trying to target the bulk of my business. But really that Canton Akron area, newer listing that comes on the market. I love ranches. I love condos because typically you're going to get someone that's downsizing, someone, a lot of those people, in my experience, in a lot of the ranches or condo open houses, you're getting people that have properties to sell. And especially if you're in that 200 to 275 price point, you can get some pretty good traffic at them. And so I love those. And what I love about open houses, what I love about calling expireds is it's free. And then
Yeah.
with the expireds, same thing. I set myself up on an MLS listing alert for anytime I do Stark County, I do Summit County, and anytime an expired listing comes up, the email goes out at like midnight, 12:15. So then when I'm at the office at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., I'm looking at my emails and I'm saying, okay, there were 4 properties that expired last night. I'm going to call these 4 people. Um, and sometimes with expired listings, uh, it's interesting, down in the Akron Canton area, a lot of people will withdraw the listing, do a price drop, and then put it back up. It's not as
Yeah.
common up in the Cleveland area.
Yeah.
But sometimes people will forget to withdraw it and then that listing expired. So I always like checking before I call the person to make sure that the house isn't just relisted again. But a huge thing with expireds is, and I think with any lead that's out there, is speed to lead. So I always try to make my first expired calls between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. I think it's a great time to make calls because you'll catch people either before they're at work or maybe while they're on their way to work, whatever else it might be. But sometimes if you catch them later morning, early afternoon, late afternoon, their day is already in a full swing. So it can be a little bit harder to connect with them then. So I make that initial call. If they don't answer, I don't leave a voicemail. I just save their information. I put it into a Google Sheet. I have the address, their name, the number. And then in the afternoon, I may try again. And then in the evening, I may call them again. So if this listing just expired that night, I may call them 3 times within 24 hours.
Are you texting as well? Are you trying to figure out a way to email them, or is it
So
just
so sometimes text, like sometimes, and if I'm doing a text, I may just keep it pretty brief and I just may say, "Good afternoon. Is this Mark?" Question mark. And just like the biggest thing is just trying to get them on a call. And so whatever I can do to get them on a call is what I'm going to do. Like I just texted an expired lead this morning, and I had a conversation with him on Tuesday. He said that he was going to meet with another agent yesterday. So I texted him this morning. I just said, "Hey, how did that appointment go with that other agent? Are you open to interviewing one more agent before you relist the property?" And he said, "Sure." So,
Mhm.
um, so I do like texting too, but yeah, really any way that I can get their contact information. So someone said, "What are you using to get their phone numbers?" So I honestly I use Forewarn. There's Mojo, there's RedX, Vulcan, all those that are out there that you can pay for. But I just use Forewarn.
in a TCPA friendly and compliant manner?
That's right.
Um, I think one little like thing that I want to underline that you just said, I think many of us, if I ask someone define the value of the MLS, most people would be like, oh, like that's what I set my clients up on searches. That's where people input listings. Like that's where, like, that's ground zero of where real estate happens before it goes out to Zillow and et cetera. But Jason, your mentality is this is this is where the data is. Yes, it's what the searches I set my clients up on. Like, yes, that's baseline, but you're using it to find opportunities. And I think that's a like a note that I want to put for folks. Like if you're not using the MLS to consider opportunities or mastering, how do I become the master of a market? Like say I want to be the king of Stowe, and sell as many homes as possible in Stowe. If I don't have myself set up on multiple searches for different price ranges in Stowe, not because I'm necessarily buying in that range, but because I want to understand it. I want to know how fast inventory is moving. Yes, there are reports that I can run, but there's something about getting daily emails that helps you feel it and see it and understand it and see when that pops up. Oh, I just know that it's overpriced because I look at these all the time and I see what happens. So if you're not utilizing the MLS in a kind of a data collection, becoming the local economist of choice, that's an opportunity, for sure. Let's camp for an added second on open houses, Jason, before we transition.
Yeah.
Plenty of people do open houses and say those don't work, or I don't get leads from them, or those people, it's just nosy neighbors and window shoppers. Like it doesn't turn into real business. So why are you so committed to open houses, and how are you seeing results there? What do you do differently? How do you make sure that those are worth your time?
Yeah, so fall of 2023, I would have agreed with all those people that said open houses don't work. But I was like kind of a little bit motivated to prove myself wrong.
Hmm.
And I listen to podcasts, watch videos on YouTube of just people talking about how they did, open houses all week, and they ended up closing, 30, 40 deals just from open houses alone. So I heard success like that, and I figured there's got to be something that I'm not doing right or that I'm just discrediting from open houses. And I think my mindset at that time was these people that are coming in, they're not really motivated. They don't want to hire me. They already have a real estate agent. It was some of these, negative self-talk that just weren't really true the more and more that I did open houses. And I think the biggest thing is just bulk, because I've had, if I've done 30, 35 open houses, I've probably had, maybe between 5 to 10 where I've either had no one come by, or I've had 5 to 10 where I've had either no one come by or just one person that comes by. And if you do one open house a week, it could take you, let's say that takes you, you're just on a strike of bad luck. You could do open houses every weekend for 10 weeks. And you're like, I haven't had anyone come by. And so the doing them in bulk kind of helps out, and it gives you a better sense of, you know, where people might be coming from. This listing got one person, whereas this listing got this many people. Like just this past weekend, I did 3 open houses. My first open house had one person. The next open house had 12 people. And then the third open house had 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing is like there's 17 people that just came by through open houses that are motivated. It's like they don't want to come out and look at a property unless they're um, you know, likely going to transact within the next 12 months. What I found, if they're coming out at an open house, chances are that they might be even more motivated and would do something within the next 6 months, just depending on what they're looking for.
That's such a great point. And I think that's part of the silver lining of this time of year is people say like, why would I list this time of year? And it's like, well, yeah, we probably won't have as many showings in January that we would in May, but the people that are coming through, they're not playing around, Whereas Memorial Day weekend and the magnolia blossoms are blooming and hey, let's go see some houses. You're gonna have far more less interested people. Whereas this time of year, um, the quality of lead has the chance of being higher.
Yeah, and going off of that, I think also what I've had to do, especially when you have an open house where you have 12 people, is trying to get the um trying to get the important questions out as soon as you can so that whenever they're walking through the property, you can figure out how serious is that person. Because if you have 12 people that are walking through a house at one time, which one do you pay attention to? Who do you focus on? Do you just stand there? But I think that I've also been able to, if I have a few groups coming through at one time, being able to think, okay, I'm probably not going to spend as much time with this person because I don't think I have a chance at converting that person. Whereas with this person, based on what they're saying, I think I would have a higher chance of transacting with them.
Are you doing sign-ins? Like, what's your process as it relates to open houses?
Yeah, so they come in, I greet them, and I say something along the lines of, people who come out to open houses, they're either looking to buy a house or they're planning to sell a property in the area. Which one are you? And then that kind of gets the dialogue going. And then I say, I have a sign-in sheet right there. I got a fact sheet. If you wouldn't mind just signing in, then you're welcome to walk around throughout the property. And then if there's only one person at a time, I'll typically walk that person through, even if they say that they have an agent. I'll still walk that person through the house because if you're doing an open house, your biggest goal is to sell that house. And so I walk them through the house. I treat them as if they're my client, and how I would walk them through the house if I was showing them this house outside of an open house. So walk them through it, and then as I'm walking them through it, I just ask the basic questions to gather what their motivation might be, where they're looking. So I try to figure out exactly what they're looking for. So that by the time that they leave, I make it clear, like, okay, well, I know what you're looking for. You're looking for this. Does this match what you're looking for? Okay, if it doesn't, I'd love to send you some other properties that do match this. Would that be okay with you? I see your emails right here. Say, oh yeah, that's no problem. And then while I'm there at the open house, I'll set them up on the search, and then at the end of the open house, I'll call them and just say, "Hey, I set you up on the search. You should have received an email. If you hadn't, you should receive it in the next hour or so. If you see anything you like or have any questions, give me a call," and then just leave it at that. And through the MLS, through the MLS, you can tell if they've um, opted into receiving the alerts. So you send it out, they have to opt into receiving the alerts, and then you can navigate it out from there. And I have myself set up so anytime someone that I have set up on a search goes to the website, I get a text. And so it'll say so and so went to the website, this person went to the website. So it's just an easy way to keep track of activity and easy way to keep track of if they're engaging with the alerts or not. But if they haven't gone to the website yet, then that's easy follow up. You call them a week later, just say, hey, did you get that email? If you hadn't, I can resend it to you. And they're like, oh no, I've been busy. And then through those conversations, you can gauge, okay, do I have a chance at transacting with this person? And how motivated is this person?
Right. A
Because if
couple
you,
things to highlight. That was
that's right.
uh um slow clap on that. And a lot of us think, oh, whatever, open houses are open houses. Maybe they work, maybe they don't. But the speed with which you responded showed you're not making it up as you go every time. This is what I do. This is what I say. So having a system, I like your opening question. Most people who come are either this or that. Which are you? It's not a, hey, what brings you in today? It puts more of a point on the conversation, which gives you the opportunity to learn more quicker. I like the point that you made that, like, hey, actually my goal is to sell this house. I think sometimes we think open houses are just about getting leads because open house guests don't buy these houses. And while that may statistically typically be true, your point is I'm going to treat them like that's the goal here. And even if that doesn't become the reality, I'm going to be better equipped to serve them moving forward because I've asked questions. They've shown me a little bit what they're interested in. And then the final thing I want to highlight is the immediacy with which you already show your value. I think many of us, hey, if I host an open on a Saturday or a Sunday, I might say, hey, yeah, I'll set up the search on Monday. What's the hurry? The market's not going to change that much in the next couple of days. Like, I don't want them to feel like I'm up in their business. But if someone's getting an email from you within 30 minutes of having met you, I'm impressed. I'm saying, hey, that guy seems sharp and he's showing me that he's sharp. If and when the next one comes along, I'm inclined to want to work with him. So
And to go off of that, if they're going to your open house, they're not just going to your open house. They're probably going to numerous other open houses or have gone to other open houses before yours. It's the same thing with an internet lead. It's like if they're registering on your website, they're probably registering on someone else's website. So you have to figure out, how can I make myself differentiate from those other people within that short amount of time.
We got a question a few minutes ago, and then we're going to transition in a second here. Someone asked best days and times for opens. If you're hosting 3 to 5 a week, when or what are your target ranges?
So target ranges typically Thursday through Sunday, but I mean I've done them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday too. If you're doing them throughout the week, typically like 4 to 6 tends to be good. I was doing them at 5 to 7, but it was a little bit hard because the sun sets at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit difficult. I think those are, I don't know. I'm curious to see how it's going to pan out going into the summertime. But I'd imagine once it's summer, once the sun's still up, that you might have a little bit more success.
Agreed.
And then for the weekends, I typically try to do like Saturday 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then the next one 1 to 3, and then Sunday the same thing, but typically a little bit later because just my Sunday schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that makes sense. All right. Schedule is a good segue. So, when we talk about Jason being transplanted, he didn't just move here from New Mexico. He actually currently lives in Lakewood. So our office right now, Jason and I are both in North Canton. He currently lives in Lakewood, which means every day he drives. How long does it typically take you, Jason?
Well, as long as there's not a snowstorm.
Fair.
If there's a snowstorm, then it takes about an hour and a half. But
Okay.
minus the storm, it's just under an hour.
Okay. So I want to spend a minute here because the beauty of real estate is I can work from home. I can work from anywhere. I can work from a coffee shop. And yet I know that many people, and if you're a mom, you probably feel this more acutely than the guys in the room. Home is a deeply distracting place. It's well, I'll do this, but then I can do that. And then, you're just kind of in a constant state of kind of doing stuff if you're typical. So Jason, talk with us about why you drive an hour. Why do you show up to work? Why do you dress the part? Why do you do it? And how do you think that impacts your ability to generate business?
Well, Mark, I get to see your face in person. I can't do that from home.
Stop, I'm blushing.
Um, No, so I like my home. I like having that break. I like being able to come home and hang out with my wife. And we're doing work all the time. So, you never know when you're gonna have to be writing a contract, taking a phone call, doing something from the house. So you can't avoid it, but I'm just a lot more productive in an office, and I get so distracted when I'm at my house. So if I'm at my house, I can still get work done, but if I'm in an office, I can just get it done much quicker, to the point that it's worth it to drive down here. And then I like being down here because of, appointments come up, different things happen. And it just makes it a little bit more convenient. Oh, and also just the being surrounded by the other people that are doing the same thing. Um, you know, Christian and I have become accountability partners, and it's nice to be able to see him on a daily basis. Hey, how are you doing on this? I know you said you wanted to do this. How's that coming along? Because it can be a little bit of a solo, or I guess maybe a little bit of a lonely business.
For
So to
sure.
have the collaboration of being in an office is really nice.
Absolutely. And I think that the principle beneath a lot of how you approach things, you're not asking the question, what can I get away with, or what's easy, or what works. It's what choice can I make that's going to position me to be the best version of myself, and to get the biggest results over time. And I think all too often we take the corner cutting route in life. That's not just a real estate thing. And one thing I'm impressed by with you is like, no, I'm asking what's best. How can I be the best? And as we move from a speed-based market into a skill-based market, the best agents are the ones who are going to take the listings. And that's not a knock on everyone. And we all have different value propositions. But I think a question for each of us today is, how am I seeking to, am I seeking to be better at what I'm doing? And if not, why not? And if so, how can I build that into my lifestyle in a different way? Am I willing to drive an hour each way every day in order to show up in a different way? I think I'm struck by that. So let's talk time management. How do you structure your days? What comes first? If a text pops up, are you answering it? Or are you saving it for a different time? Like, just bring us into your approach to time, distractions, time blocks, etc.
Yeah, I think that the best way to have a great day today starts yesterday. And I think best case scenario is I got my outfit planned, I got my workout clothes ready, I got my lunch packed. That's like perfect world, ideal situation. I probably hit that maybe once a week, maybe twice a week. Um, but so having that already lined up, making the mornings, nice and easy, get up, hit the gym, get a workout in, get a nice breakfast, do some reading, get into the office. Once I get to the office, I have a general schedule that I follow. I wish I could say that I was like disciplined enough to, I'm only prospecting 9 to 12. And then in the afternoon, if I got a text about a deal, I'm not responding to it. I typically respond to things as they come up, but generally speaking, I do my prospecting in the morning. And then I try to push my inspections appointments onto the afternoon. And then obviously showings sometimes come up in the evening. So getting out to those. But if any of those vary, I try to just switch things around and still get that off. I think that's what also helps about coming into an office, because if if I'm working from home and I have an inspection in the morning, and let's say the inspection takes 9 to 12, and then, at 12:30, then I got an appointment, and the appointment's 12:30 to 1:30. And after 1:30, I'm pretty much done with my day. If I'm just working from home, I typically just would head back home. And then my afternoon would just be really not too productive at all. But then if I'm at the office, then I'm coming back and I'm like, okay, well, I still have a few more hours. I can get some more calls in. I can get some more things done before I head out for the day.
And that's perhaps the hidden blessing of living so dang far away from the office. And he is
Yes.
looking for a place nearby, just as a caveat. This is not
Yeah.
designed to be an eternal thing, but like there's no popping by home. I'm not, oh, I need to swing back and grab that thing. It's like, no, dang it, I'm 50 miles away from home.
It's a
I'm
commitment.
here for my day, which I'm not going to encourage everybody to transfer to a brokerage that's an hour away from where they live, but
It will do
uh,
miles on your car.
yeah, that's true. Talk with me about what works or doesn't work in your expired calls or your internet lead calls. Do you have opening scripts that work, ways that you're getting people to engage when you know that other people are calling them with similar, um, you know, plans for them? Take us into your phone life.
Yeah, so phone life, again, I especially with expireds, I try to do first thing in the morning. I try to um, you know, expireds are just so unique in the sense that like the one expired I have listed right now, he expired on a Saturday night. So I got the notification Sunday morning. So I called him Sunday afternoon. I set up an appointment with him for Tuesday, and then I had his property listed by Friday.
Wow.
Um, but as far as over the phone, I don't think I try to not be super sales pitchy. I just try to focus on what can I say, um how can I establish some sort of value that gets them willing to work with me, or get them willing to meet with me. Um and sometimes almost like I've heard like a dumb script where for expireds, it's almost like, oh, your house didn't sell. I mean, I'm looking at the pictures. It looks nice. What do you think happened? And then just letting them talk and giving them the room to explain what went well, what didn't go well. And then like an expired appointment that I just went on yesterday, I think part of it is just trying to figure out where you can fit into where they're at. So I had a conversation with her on Tuesday, and she got talking. She was like, yeah, but I don't really want to interview agents again, probably until March. I'm like, okay, no problem. When do you think that you'll be out to the property next? And she's like, oh, well, I'll be out at the property tomorrow morning because I got to check on something. and just got to make sure that there's electricity. Oh, well, I'll actually be in the area. Would you mind if I stop by? Just got a card in your hand and just made a quick introduction. She's like, yeah, no problem. And then, so for a case like that, I know that one, I was of the first agents that had a phone call with her. I'm probably the first agent that she's met with since the listing has expired. And I think that that's a that's kind of the biggest in that you can get with some of those leads is they're only going to meet with so many people before they're like, I'm tired and I've met and I've had so many of the same conversations that I don't want to do this anymore. And I just try to be personable, just try to, as you said, just be a problem solver. And in this lady's case, I may have a chance at listing her house. I may not. But she said like I had an agent that I worked with in the past and she seemed to do well enough, but I just don't know why it didn't sell. And I'm like, well, at this point, do you really have any reason not to go back to that agent? And she's like, well, I really don't know at this point. So it's just like trying to probe questions like that, instead of being like, oh, I'm the agent that you got to work with. I'm the person that can get this done, because you really don't know. I don't know if I can accomplish what she wants and what she needs. And I just want to meet with them and try to figure out if I would be the right fit to do it.
I think that's so good. And the way that you're talking about it, I don't know. I don't know if anyone is hearing you talk and be like, gosh, that guy sounds manipulative and aggressive and salesy. It's like, no, he sounds caring and authentic and driven and ambitious, but not in a zero-sum game sort of way. And we've all heard the phrase, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And not that you're necessarily showing up with a plate of cookies, but just asking questions is the plate of cookies in prospecting business. And the more people talk about themselves, the more they talk about their situation, and the more they feel like the person on the other end is actually curious and actually says, I want to see if we're a fit. I'm not trying to convince you that I'm the best person. I don't know, that just resonates with me, and I can see why people would say like, oh, sure, I mean, come on out, I suppose. So you're there. Do you think you're having more success than others that are getting those same appointment opportunities, or what's working with you once you actually get face to face with an expired seller?
I don't know. I think that some people personalities, I think my thoughts are some personalities just blend with other people's personalities better than others. And I think that I'm going to get someone that someone on this call may not be able to get. And then someone on this call can get someone that I can't get. And and I could try to switch my personality and try to switch up how I approach the conversations. But ultimately, like I like being authentic. I like being, down to earth when I meet with the people. So that's kind of my approach. I meet with them. I just try to build up a lot of rapport. I think when I first started out, I tried to be very numbers oriented and very like, if I have all the information, this person's going to work with me because I know what I'm talking about. And it's like that's not really the case. The people are just going to work with who they like when it all boils down. And if that person likes you, if they enjoy being around you, if you can also pull through on that and prove in the meantime that not only can you trust me, but you can also rely on me because I'm taking your calls. Whenever you email me, when you text me, I'm very responsive. I get you your answers in a timely fashion. I think that's just what I love about the job is but I to go back to your question, when I'm with them, I just focus on building rapport and um peeling layers back, figuring out what they want, what they're looking for, and then maybe like if an appointment is an hour long, I maybe spend 5 minutes actually pitching them, and then the rest is just talking about the house, talking about what they're planning on doing, what they need to do, and then in those 5 minutes, I may be talking about myself and what I could do.
Do you know how many listing appointments you've gone on since coming to us 2 months ago? Do you track that?
I do not. I would say so. I would say probably in the realm of I want to say around 10 to 15, probably.
Okay, so you're converting 2/3 of those that you're going on at this stage, which is a fantastic number, especially since you know that other people are chomping at the bit. You're not working a friends and family based business at this stage. Um, so that's helpful. Yeah, I think a theme of you is quality is in the quantity, and the more open houses you host, the more calls you make, the more likely you are to meet with people that are going to do business with you. And I think the
Yeah.
question for the group is, are you willing to take the amount of action necessary? If I'm saying, oh, I'll make 5 contacts a day, it's like other people are making a lot more than that, which doesn't mean that they're necessarily geniuses at it, but they're doing more of it, which means their skills are sharpening and they're more likely, mathematically to meet someone that says, yes, can we sit down? I think you might actually be able to help me. So that's a key tip. How do you work through, you mentioned earlier that a few years ago, you felt more shy, you felt more insecure, you felt more uncertain about how to approach these things. How do you work through fear of rejection? You're kind of in a higher rejection space than a lot of people tend to dwell. Do you have a personal mantra? Do you have a way of dealing with being told off more frequently than many of us on this call are?
That's funny. No, I mean, I think it's sidebar. I mean, I just think it's so interesting what people would be willing to, what you can get out of people just over a phone call, and then even in person, what people are willing to open up or say. And it's like I either just met you or I'm just talking to you over a phone call. I don't even know you. So I think that's kind of interesting. So there's a lot of curiosity that goes into my prospecting. But when I was first starting out, it was hard because I felt like I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to connect with that person. I didn't know what I needed to do to convert them into a client. And I think what really changed for me was I just started asking for a lot more appointments, where before I was, building rapport, I was providing value over the phone call, but I just wasn't asking for the appointment. So being able to implement that into my calls, I think definitely helped out a lot. Um, and
How
I'm
do you
sorry,
ask for the appointment? Are you either or? I'm good Thursday or Friday, or it feels like we should meet. Like, what's your close to the appointment?
I'm probably more so it feels like we should meet, or, based on what you're saying, it seems like it would be a great time to meet with an agent and start interviewing around. Is that something you're open to? And a lot of times they'll be like, no, not really. Or like, yeah, I mean, I'd consider it, might make sense. Um, and and then from that, you're just following up for the appointment. You're like, hey, are you ready to sit down and talk through what it would look like? Um, so yeah, I think very casually. And then I do propose, like, I'm available after 5 p.m., or I could do tomorrow between 1 to 5. Um, but probably more low pressure than what another approach might be.
One just sidebar for folks that want to grow in their ability to close to the appointment. In Shift, I want to say it's like page 111 or somewhere there in the Shift book. There is a section on the decision continuum, which talks about there's hard no, there's automatic yes, but most people are somewhere in between. And then it talks about the different types of closes um, that depending on the person, depending on how firm they are, and depending on your personality. And my recommendation is everybody wants to have 2 or 3 kind of angles you can take. You don't want to be a one-stop shop as it relates to how you go towards the appointment.
And I'm sorry, I don't think I kind of going back to your question, because I think I kind of went off on a tangent there. So I think what really helped for me was just doing it more, and giving room for that fear, giving room for that, that emotion, that anxiety that's coming up, but not letting it be my driving force or driving factor. Um, and it took me a while to push through that, but I think I've come out on the other side of that now, where it's like I just enjoy prospecting. I enjoy the
Mm.
phone calls. I enjoy the open houses, because it's like you don't know what next person you're going to run into that you could do business with.
I was listening to a podcast that wasn't about real estate sales the other day, and it's a woman named Cody Sanchez, who's this total rock star investor entrepreneur, and she says, I think we have um, an excellence crisis in our culture, where not enough people desire to be excellent. It's, hey, what's good enough? And she said part of how you become excellent, and this is in line with what you just said, is you fall in love with the game. Um, and every game has its suck, has its version of like, oof, either this is tedious or I'm not good at it yet. But it's like, it's a world where I'm like, I know what I'm doing, I know what to look for, I know what I can practice. It becomes a game the more you do it, and your mastery comes with that. And I thought that was a really interesting point, that the more that we can kind of, no one's going to say that prospecting is a blast, or I'd rather be prospecting than hanging out with my spouse on the week. No, don't be weird. But the more you do it, the more you come to love it, and the better you get at it. And I think when we're looking for passion or purpose, all too often we're waiting for something to just materialize that we haven't invested our own effort in. And I just don't think that that's how things work most of the time. It's like the most rewarding relationships didn't just happen. It's because we like spent time with the person, and we played or we worked or we laughed, like, it doesn't just, you know, prospecting is not love at first sight. I think that's what I'm that's my bullet point there. And I think putting in the hours actually can increase the joy if you're willing to view it in that way. And you're at that point. Like when I see you in the office, it's not like, you're bent over your computer saying, why on earth do I have to do this? Like, can I just stop doing this? It's like, no, I'm doing it. This is part of what I do. Um, Jason, we're short on time, and I want to give a little bit of space for any other kind of closing questions from folks. Any other tips, tricks? I forgot to mention this, or I want to make sure that I underscore this for our folks that are wanting to grow in these ways.
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just that um, it's a simple business, but it's a very hard business. It's simple in the sense of what you led with, where we're lead generating business, where we prospect, we prospect into a lead, we turn that lead into a client, that client flows into a deal, which is a simple process when you think about the broad scale of different jobs that we could be doing. When I was in property management, that was a complicated, hard job.
Mm.
Um, so compared to this in real estate, it's hard in its own way. And what also helped me is I want to choose my hard. And
Mm. Yeah.
you can choose your hard for whatever capacity, whatever, venture that you want to go down to or get into. I would much rather be choosing my hard in getting rejected at an open house, getting rejected over a phone call, than doing anything else.
That's such a good point. I think many of us are clearer on what we don't like doing than what we're willing to do and committed to doing. And choosing your heart is like, oh, I don't like talking to strangers. It's like, do you like feeding your family? Do you like accomplishing your goals? Like, and it's not always that stark, but oh, I don't want to talk with my friends and family about real estate because I don't want to. That's fine. You're allowed to feel that way, but do you prefer to not, you know, accomplish your goals, whatever they are? And that answer is different for each of us. But like, I think a question is like, am I clearer on what I don't like doing than what I'm committed to doing? And if so, why? And how can I unwind that? Because our lives should be more about what we're for than what we're against. And I think you model that well. Folks, Jason said a lot of smart things, and he walks the talk. What questions do you have? Thoughts that you want to share before we wrap up our time? Thank you, Gina. Gina said, tremendously insightful, transparency, humility, and calm demeanor will undoubtedly continue to grow your already successful career. Kudos. I agree.
Thanks, Gina.
Great comment. Who else?
I'll say one more thing real quick.
Yeah.
So the previous company that I was with, the Keller Williams up in the Cleveland area, something that they always talked about was we also have the potential to change our business within the next 90 days starting today. And I
Mm,
just think that that's what's so, you know, so inspiring and so motivating about the business that we're in. Your past 90 days, your past 6 months could have gone however, maybe in a way that you didn't want them to, but you can start making the calls, you can start doing the open houses and start meeting the clients today.
absolutely. Sue asked, do you find most of forewarned people are not on do not call or are on do not call? Have you run into many issues there?
Um, I have found that some are on the do not call. And obviously with those ones, I just pass on to the next. I think the bigger thing there is just saving the context that you can get and then trying to optimize those ones. Because um, in a week time, you may have, I don't know, maybe 25 to 30 listings that expire. And of those 25 to 30, you may actually only have like maybe 5 to 10 that you can contact because of do not call, because of it wasn't actually a listing that expired,
Right.
or because you can't find their contact information. So it's saving those 5 to 10. And I'm not just going to call them today, but I'm going to try them again tomorrow. I'm going to try, pretty much any time that I'm sitting there prospecting, I'm going to try giving them a call and seeing if I can get them on the phone.
Awesome. Well, it's a couple minutes ahead. We're finishing ahead of time, but lots of really good stuff there. These are recorded, folks, and your market centers can send those out to you in typically a few days before they're ready to roll. But lots of really good stuff there, Jason. Thank you for sharing. That's I think one of the things that I love most about KW is we don't hide our successes under a bushel, and so you shared what's working, and I don't take that for granted. So thank you.
For
Um,
sure. And if anyone ever has any questions, like if you got a lead that you're working and you're just like, because that's a lot of the stuff that I ran into or do run into is like, I'm at this point with this contact, this lead from an open house from an expired. I don't know where to take it next. If you ever have any questions like that or just about what we talked about today, don't hesitate to reach out. I love helping out in any way I can.
Jason Lacourt at kw.com. Is there a dot in there?
Yes. Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Well, everyone, go and put something in action. Change something on your calendar. Call someone that you wouldn't otherwise, and go take a listing. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and see you all on the next one.